the midst of a global shift from the west to the east. India today is the third largest economy with an average growth rate of 8.5% over the last 5 years, twice higher than that of the world's real GDP growth rate, which averaged at 4.3%. This begs us the question of how we as entrepreneurs can participate in this thriving and dynamic economy. On this Doing Business panel in India, we have the moderator, Ms. Bhairavi Jani, a fourth-generation entrepreneur and director of SCA Group of Companies, founded in 1896. SCA's portfolio includes logistics, shipping, and supply chain management, among others. We also have Mr. Maheshwar, Commissioner for Industrial Development and Director of Industries and Commerce of the Government of Karnataka, who is mainly responsible for policy formulation, trade development, and industrialization of the state of Karnataka. We also have Mr. Parekh from Ernst, a global leader in assurance, tax, transition, and advisory services, who produced this fantastic guidebook on doing business in India. Last but not least, we have Mr. Zubin, Kabraji, Regional Director, Pune, Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, who spearheads the promotion of Pune as a German engineering hub in India. Two of our speakers are not able to join today. However, we may have Mr. Shaffi, who may join us later. He is the Economic Advisor to the Chief Minister of Kerala. Bhairavi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Salam Namaste. I did not hear that something. So Salam Namaste. And now we're talking. So this, after 3 to 4 days of sojourn with India, is a session that brings you right back on the ground, or getting the nuts and bolts and fix. Just exactly what entrepreneurs like doing, want doing, and want to do, which is getting about doing business. We're going to focus on this session about what it takes to do business in India. Why in India? How is it different? What it takes? What's on the ground? How different players play their roles? And in the end, what does it take to succeed? And therefore, how India is also getting positioned as not just an investment destination by a country, but an investment destination by a region. So we'll touch on an array of different topics. We have a fantastic panel here. They've enlightened me in the last half an hour, and I think you'll love hearing what they have to say. So I'm going to start by asking each one of them to speak for about 2 minutes on why do you think, why India? I'll start with you, Maheshwar, and Zubin, and then off to Paresh.
I think everyone knows or everyone talks about India's story, and it is something which we are all aware of, the growth, opportunities, market, etc. I was just making a part of a presentation in Taiwan a couple of weeks back. The first, and I think the major point which everyone mentioned at that time was market. I mean, this is, I think, one of the big reasons why a lot of people would like to come and think of doing business in India. Audible? A lot of reasons why people would like to come to India: the size of the market, the huge possibility of growth, the consumption which is set to grow at least 3 to 4 times in the next couple of decades. The other reason, of course, which we all mention is good quality human capital, some of the best brains in the world, very low cost of labor. But one argument I think I should mention, of course, and which I think captures a lot of the ideas is of how India is growing as a place or a location where countries can do business, has been that, yes, everyone does recognize that doing business in a country like India could be difficult. But the point which had come up in that meeting, I think, which I liked really well, was there are barriers for getting into the market. But these barriers are common for everyone. That is, it is non-discriminatory. So if you are able to come in and operate in the market, or you are able to do it, it is non-discriminatory across countries, across places, and the opportunities and the returns are high. So though we are improving and the possibilities and the way we do business has been improving over the period of time, I think the most important aspect is it is non-discriminatory and there's a huge market and we want to grow it. Thank you.
What I'd really like to add to what Mr. Rao said is that I think you should also be here because we are a very different kind of people. I come basically from a city which is a huge German success story. And we ask people as to why they want to come and invest in a city like Pune. There are a few reasons. I very quickly run through them. One of the reasons is that Germans like to come to Pune because of the proximity of big German companies which are already there, right? So the smaller people come because they come as ancillary units. The second important reason is, which Mr. Rao also touched on, is good quality resources. Pune is the Oxford of the East. We have more than 120 colleges. We are churning out engineers, we are churning out doctors, management students. This resource is readily available to companies which want to come and invest in Pune. Number three, Pune is a city of entrepreneurs. The Germans love to bring high technology. Not only the Germans, I would say that we have French companies, we have Spanish companies, the Koreans are there, the Japanese are there. They are all bringing very, very high technology and setting up their plants over there. I think they like Pune because nobody gets unfazed with all this high technology. They are entrepreneurs. They started from scratch the hard way, and they love this flow of technology, and they relate to it and they adapt to it. The fourth important thing is that a place like Pune is a very friendly city. It's a cultural melting pot. So we don't look askance at people who come from foreign lands. The moment they land in the city, they're already on somebody's guest list, with people taking them around, showing them around, and sort of nobody looks at them twice on the street and says, there goes a foreigner. No, we don't do that in Pune. There's a fifth point, it's the weather, but I think that the weather is good just about anywhere.
Salam, namaste, and good evening to everyone. Bhairavi asked me a question, why India? I'll answer in your language. If I had money, I would have really invested in India, and I will explain you why. All the statistics, data points are anyway mentioned in the books, Doing Business in India, so I will not repeat that. I will go straight to the point. 3 key points. Will I get a good return? Will I be able to run a successful business? And can I take my money back? First important basic point, India is a democratic country giving lot of flexibility. If not equal, I would say a much liberal treatment to global investment. Second, a very strong judiciary. Most of you must have tracked. Really, the judiciary is something which you can trust in India. Third, the very basic fact about one data point, which is the youth median age of 26. It really excites me, that too on a base of such a huge population. People look at short term. I request you to look at long term, medium and long term. There's no doubt. What is the choice? Look at macro. There may be some micro disturbances. Look at macro picture. I think there are very little options, and in any case, if there are a couple of other options other than India, any reasonable business person will diversify his risk. I think I would not like to ask why India, but I would like to say and urge each one of you, if you are not going for India, I would say, why not India?
Thank you. We're sitting in this wonderful place at Bombay Stock Exchange, and one of the things that a lot of people who come to India are baffled by, that it's not just one country, it's a country of many states. And as you can see from even, when I say why India, Zubin has to, talk about Pune, and Maheshwar will talk about Karnataka, and Paresh will look at the whole country, and Shaffi, when he joins us, will talk about Kerala. So we are a federal country, and we are a big, big market. But within that big market, we are many segments of market. Considering the fact that, Maheshwar, I want to come to you on this. I mean, you are from a state whose capital finds name more mentioned in American politics, right? Has coined a whole new term called your job got Bangalore. To coming to a situation where today you are working hard to attract investment to Karnataka. So why should somebody come to Karnataka, and why do you only focus on Karnataka as a government person, and do you really focus on a whole country? How do you decide that?
I think India is, I think Bhairavi, you actually pointed out, India is such a huge country. Each individual state, actually, if you look at it in terms of population size, is almost a country by itself. I think Karnataka itself has got a population of close to around 60 million, 6 crores. So you have got a huge pool of manpower, you've got a huge population looking for jobs, you've got a large, agricultural base, and if anybody operates within the state itself, there are a lot of people who are actually able to work within the state itself. However, given that aspect, in a truly globalized, and in fact, if you look at India also, there are opportunities both outside the state, there are opportunities for outside the country. One aspect you should understand, of course, is each state in its own way has brought a set of laws which are unique to the state. So sometimes what happens is, we in the state, at least from the government side, are always trying to see, it's all about jobs. You want more people coming here, you would like to get more manufacturing, you would like to bring more people, you'd like to raise the income of the state where you're working in first. So that is why, to a certain extent, the state actually goes around trying to attract more people to our state. The second point, why Karnataka is going into the services sector, it was very much well known for the services sector. The IT boom happened a couple of decades back. It's generated a huge amount of prosperity in Bangalore. That, of course, has been in a services-led growth. There is only one issue which actually affects us to a large extent, is that it leads to a rise in inequality. There is also a requirement that in case we can promote more jobs or more employment in the manufacturing sector, there is the reduction, or there's going to be a reduction in this level of inequality. It becomes a more equal kind of state. Given that aspect, we would like to be aggressive because we know that capital is mobile. We would like to bring a lot of capital to our state. However, yes, your point is true to a certain extent. At this time, a few states, some of us have been competing with each other in form of incentives to attract more industry to our state, to build our manufacturing base, so that we are actually a head start in the welfare of our people at a higher level. However, a realization has taken place that yes, certain amount of endowments are there for neighboring states, like say a place like Chennai, which has got better access to the port, a lot of heavy engineering, heavy machine tools industry, maybe a lot of manufacturing, automobile sector will come there, a lot of people will come and possibly locate the services sector here. There are certain endowments, including the knowledge base of Karnataka, which allows them to go in for higher value added like services, including designs, etc. So therefore, a little bit of agreement that we should stop say, competing with each other in terms of incentives to attract industry. However, this has been the focus has been that given manufacturing in the state is only around 16% of the total GDP, and we would like to increase it to 25%, makes our state also go out and attract people to come and set up manufacturing, which has implications not only on inequality but also on environment. Thank you.
I think, Paresh, let me bring this here. I mean, you've heard both of them sort of talk about, one about Karnataka, one about Pune, and you're sitting at Ernst and Young. People are coming to you from around the world saying, I want to invest in India. How do you advise? I mean, do you say, no, I like this state better, I like that state better? What do you advise people? How do you advise somebody to invest in one state versus the other? Or do you not?
So, first let me say we are in a way enjoying this competition between states, because more and more states are then open to negotiating incentives which are even beyond their stated policy. So that's good news for business. We are involved in advising, and whenever I am speaking in Europe or any part of the world, in US, Japan, Africa, wherever, I always say, please don't, when it comes to business, don't treat India as a country. It is a continent. The tastes are different, even size of shirts which you sell. Actually, the body sizes are different. Tastes of food are different. Please treat each state, if not each district, as a separate business sort of focus area. The way we advise is, of course, if the business requires proximity to port, airport, infrastructure, then of course that's the first level of sorting. Second level of sorting is possibly the political stability of the government. Is there any insurgency risk? Is Northeast comparable to Gujarat from a sort of stability perspective, from an accessibility perspective? The answers could be different. Similarly, then we go to a third level of filtering, which is actually then looking at what kind of infrastructure, availability of electricity, water, etc. What kind of state level laws are there? And then we typically get 4 or 5 states as our options, and then it really becomes into getting into negotiation with those states on the tax incentives, on the incentives related to utilities, on the support on availability of land. And let me insist and let me share my practical experience. I have seen more and more companies wanting to do business in the state which talks to them well. So while two factors being the same, they want leading sort of people, as senior people from the state bureaucracy, to talk to them so that they get one-on-one comfort and a level of trust gets built.
Zubin, let me come to you. The Lohegaon airport in Pune has a strip that's sometimes even smaller than a few railway tracks at Pune station, right? And yet Lufthansa, when it started out flying into India, had a direct full business class flight coming into Pune, and I think now that's been converted into a full 747 service. That's a whole lot of Germans coming to one city. And you did speak a little bit about why Pune. But why Germans? I mean, why are not Italians coming to Pune? And why are not French coming to Pune? I mean, what is up with the German obsession for Pune? And how did it work? And how did it happen?
I think there's a little bit of history behind it, in the sense that the Germans have probably had their first foray into India in the city of Pune, approximately about 75 to 80 years ago. This was the initial collaboration of Mercedes-Benz and then subsequently of MAN with companies which were based in the city of Pune. Now, thereafter, there has been a lot of evolution even in this this sort of investment pattern. For instance, Mercedes-Benz, in their second attempt with Tata Motors, couldn't get along, right? Now, without going into the details as to why they couldn't get along, the important thing is that they decided that they would sell their cars on their own. And they made a success story there. big automobile giant like Volkswagen has actually been looking at investing in India, not even in Pune, but looking at investing in India since 1980. Okay? They didn't find success for one reason or the other. But when they came back, they already knew that a company like Mercedes-Benz was well established in Pune. In the interim, there were other German companies like ThyssenKrupp, KSP pumps, which are the bigger ones, which had also made a certain had laid down a certain success story. Now, the thing is that once the big people start coming over there, there's nothing to stop the smaller ones from coming over. The smaller ones are just quite naturally attractive. A lot of the small German investment in Pune, what we call the middle-sized companies or the small companies, the hidden champions of German industry, they have actually come to Pune in the last 5 years. Okay? So there has been a spurt of investment in Pune in the last 5 years. Out of the total roughly 300 German companies who are established in Pune, a great percentage of them have come only in recent times. Okay? Now, quite naturally, when you see such numbers flocking into a particular area, okay, then one doesn't really look at considerations of infrastructure and things like that. The Lufthansa people were sort of, they didn't really say that why are we coming into or putting our footprint into a city which doesn't have a commercial airport. No, what they thought was that they would serve German industry and in turn serve Indo-German industry. It was the same with Deutsche Bank. I mean, why did Deutsche Bank suddenly decide to come to Pune? Okay? It's the same reason that they found that their business is growing, but it's not only growing with the German segment, it's growing with the Indian segment also. So, I would look at it this way. There are 2 or 3 things to be understood over here. One, generally in India we tend to put industry before we put in the infrastructure. Okay? I seriously think that we should put in the infrastructure before we put in the industry. It will make a world of difference. Okay? The other important thing is, why are people coming to Pune? Or why are people coming to Maharashtra? Or maybe, why are they going to Karnataka? A lot of people have come in recent years and asked me, you say that we should invest in either South India or Western India. Why can't I go and invest in Gujarat? So I say, okay, you want to go and invest in Gujarat? Please go, by all means. Okay, if you feel that the environment in Gujarat, okay, suits your line of business, then you should be going to Gujarat. But there always seems to be a degree of hesitancy, which prompts me to ask them, why are you hesitating? Why are you hesitating to go to Gujarat? Okay? And the answer is always, I want to go to a place which is tried and tested. So, if you want to go to a place, if your investment acumen says, or your entrepreneurial acumen says, I need to go to a place which is tried and tested, then I'm afraid that Gujarat will have to wait in the wings because Karnataka and Maharashtra are definitely far more tried and tested.
I just have one request for all of you who are engaged in some very deep conversations, that if you could please keep it minimal, and if you really want to continue your conversations, go outside and talk, because the acoustic of this place is such that even when you're speaking softly, we're able to hear it here. Is that all right? Thank you. Maheshwar, I want to come to you, basically, Zubin mentioned about the fact that building the infrastructure is extremely important. And Bangalore and Mysore are very prime cases in the fact that the infrastructure got created as the economy started flowing in. So how does government prioritize in terms of, should we really get our infrastructure ready first, or should we really go out and first get the investment and that will sort of fuel an infrastructure? It's a chicken and egg from a government's perspective, but how do you view that?
This is a very, very, very difficult question, because if you look at it this way, given the fact that, I mean, you would love to create this wonderful, big infrastructure enclave like China, and then go around and market it. But the big problem, of course, is one, it costs a huge amount of money. The second problem is that you do not know whether your bet in a particular case is going to work. We have cases where I think even in Maharashtra, somewhere close to Pune itself, there is one industrial area which is fantastic, but the second location where you have identified the land, picked up and cleared the infrastructure, there's virtually no demand. Now how do you organize it? I mean, so what we try to do is see if you can get a couple of anchors, then you try to create this whole infrastructure around it. Second question with infrastructure is a lot of people who want to come also come, I think, to locate, come with their families. They look for a good quality of social life, social infrastructure, which is provided by very few number of cities. So if you come to the case of Bangalore, you're looking at two kinds of infrastructure. One is the infrastructure for the city itself, which enables a good quality of life, which also enables you to go and work maybe 1 hour away to an industrial area, which is an hour's distance from there. So we have cases where industrial areas where we have created land, banks and a good quality infrastructure, which is 2 hours distance from Bangalore, no takers. But the same thing, if 5-6 industries together cluster and come and say that yes, we would like to create a location 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and we always would like to be located for two specific reasons. One, either near a port where we can export our stuff, or a place where we can settle down, then it actually develops. So as a result, we are always trying to catch up with demand, and wherever we have got additional supply, we have this contradiction where there is not much of demand happening, though we have tried our best in terms of marketing. So I think the truth lies somewhere in between, that if we can get a couple of good quality or a cluster or a group of industries which want to co-locate and come to a location and then build the industrial area around it, or in case we follow employment, where you have got a certain skill set, you can build an industrial infrastructure area which builds into that skill set, then it actually works. And that's what we are trying. We have also been going in for this big capital-led model. The Government of India has, of course, announced a thing called this National Manufacturing Policy, where one of the key issues which they are trying to address has been the shortage of industrial infrastructure. That is land and high-quality infrastructure and industrial township located. And in this policy, the idea is create something huge, a huge industrial township of 5,000 hectares, which then you go around and market it. We are following it up. I think there's a lot of money and state money which is going to be put into this to ensure that this model works. We are following it up, but I think we have to do a mix of both.
Paresh, Zubin brought out a very interesting point about the fact that people want to look at only tried and tested places. But, it's only the new places that are offering incentives, from a state's perspective. And, if you just look at it as a whole market, people are coming to India even though it's a new market for them. So, when you advise clients, is that something that they want to go for tried and tested places? Otherwise, how do places like Himachal come up in terms of, the way they have done the whole pharma industry? So, how does it happen in reality?
So, very interesting sort of debate for someone to decide. The way we are looking at it is, if you are a very big player and you can negotiate with the government, then you can sort of go away from what is tried and tested. But if we look at small or medium industry, I'm in agreement with what was said, that successful history is a very strong case to follow. Second important point was made by also Mr. Rao. Wherever the government is promoting some kind of a cluster development, that is attracting a lot of not only Indian industries but also multinational industries. The third angle comes when a particular state does not have any credentials to show for or does not have any plans for cluster development. That's where they go in for incentives, and the incentive has to be so huge that it can offset the risk which that company is taking. But to summarize, it is only the big ones which move in first, and for small and medium players, it's better to follow where the big ones are so that the big ones can actually take up their case with the government in case of common issue.
You know, Maheshwar, let me just come back to you again, right? And what happens is that, so let's say somebody from here gets up and says, okay, I'm interested in investing in Karnataka. I mean, government is such a mammoth place. Where do they go? I mean, do you have like a board that says, you know, here is the investment place, you know? I mean, sometimes getting an appointment with a guy like you in the government would take some guy like 8 months. So how does government get more investor and entrepreneurship friendly, and what are you doing in Karnataka to do that?
Aspects of government, of course, like I think leading from the earlier question, when states are competing for getting people to come in and set up jobs, I think you cannot be somebody who is not friendly to the investor, right? So we put on our best suits, we go on and then go and say that yes, please come here. Our whole job is to make somebody feel comfortable within the state. The idea is, one, you come to, our job is no longer anything, I mean, it's no longer regulatory. Capital is mobile. If somebody is looking at a big picture from outside the country, of say from USA or from East Asia, he's looking at India. Somebody is looking within India, he's looking at different states, competing states. He can locate in a couple of places. So how good you are, or how well you can actually make yourself friendly, because a lot of people take decisions based on the interaction they have. So we first try to be very, very investor friendly. We try to make it very easy for them to do business and ask them to come. The second issue is, I think, is a question of reliability. We like to give information in a factual manner. Anytime I mean, if you're looking at a person wanting to make, he's got his expansion plan, he wants to do his investment. Short term, you can say, okay, come here, invest, go, take your problems and you sort it out. I mean, that's one time. But if you're talking in terms of a repeated game over a period of time, your best suit is your reliability. If you can give him the correct facts, give him the correct picture, ensure that he at least understands that if he comes to meet you and have a discussion at any point of time, he knows that he's going to get the correct answer, he will get the factual information. Risk is something which every entrepreneur at some point or the other can make allowance for. Our aim is to reduce uncertainty. So that is where we would like to actually say that, okay, this is something, these are the problems which you are going to face, this is what you can face, this is where we can ameliorate it, the state can do something, this is where in terms of say incentives we can promise you, these are things which we cannot promise you. But if you ask me to about certain information where there is a lot of uncertainty, we give you a factual picture and say that yes, this is something where you have to actually take a decision. If you think that this does not work in this state, please come again. We would be very happy to welcome you when you have got the correct thing, right. But we would like to ensure a person comes to us more often, because that is where I think our strongest place.
I'm just going to come to you, Paresh. You know, it's just from another side of the table, right? You're sitting there and sometimes companies go and make a decent amount of investment in a state, and governments are very, you know, they tend to wear this mask of welcome, and then once the fish is in the net, then all the problems start coming up, and there are only few and far between, like the Tatas will pull out of something. So, you know, what happens? I mean, what happens when? How do you advise the clients to look at what Maheshwar said in terms of working with the government and looking at the data and making a sense of it?
I think that's where the state government and the whole campaign which the state government runs around attracting investment plays a big role. It has to be backed up by honest commitment on the part of state. I often get a question from most of my investors these days, Bhairavi, what if the state government changes? What if the chief minister which is going to come next is not from the same party? Or maybe this guy goes, what will happen? Will things change? I think that is where it depends again on your industry. If you are a mining player, you have to be in that area, that's given. You have very few choices. But that is where I think the point which was made, again, I would like to stress, the past behavior and the past commitments which were given by the government. Has the government really met those commitments? What is the kind of gesturing, as Mr. Rao said, the government officials, especially the top officials, are making? I think these softer points play more and more important role. And last but not the least, if there is a higher percentage of urbanization, it is in general an indication of more educated people around, and possibly even an indication of more stability, comparative stability in terms of policy.
So, Zubin, let me come to you on this. I mean, you, as a Chamber of Commerce, advise your members in terms of, transactions in the state with the government, and, we've had this huge problem that's thrown at us in terms of the declaration by Walmart to the US government that they spent, say, X million in lobbying for India. And a lot of times the Chambers of Commerce get put into this context of the fact that they're not facilitating business with their lobbying. Where is the line in terms of when somebody wants to do a business in the country, at the same time they just can't go to the government straight? So there is clearly a role for an organization like yours, but at the same time, it can be viewed as lobbying. So where is the line?
I think that basically when any organization comes to invest in a country, they look for, I think, primarily information. They want to know whether they are making the right decision. And in that respect, when a lot of people come to us, we do prepare feasibility studies for them. We do. Sometimes we do it ourselves. Sometimes we do it with our associates. Sometimes we work hand in hand with the government. I believe that giving precise information is the line. Anything beyond that, right, where you would tend to use a personal contact to push a project is done at a different level. Okay? I think there is let's face facts. There is a certain amount of politics involved in this. Okay? And without trying to sort of belittle the whole game that the bureaucracy plays or that the industry associations play, okay? So long as you are providing correct information and facilitating an organization to invest correctly in any destination, I think it's perfectly fine. But if you look at the recent issue, let's say that if you look at the Walmart issue, okay, I think people tend to forget that there are actually lobbies, okay, business lobbies, which exist not only, let's say, in India, they exist in countries like the United States also, okay. The ones which exist in the United States are used by the Indians. The Indians are lobbying over there and trying to find out whether Obama is going to get rid of the outsourcing bogey, right? As far as IT companies are concerned, I mean, how are they working on it? They're working through a lobby. They're trying to tell, right? They're trying to tell the Senate in the United States of America that outsourcing is good for you. How are they doing it? They're using a lobby. I mean, they're not mincing words over here. So I basically think that you must know what you want. As a business person, you need to know what you want. Do you want to spend money to gain an unfair advantage over somebody? That's something totally different. But if you come to a business chamber and a business chamber presents a report to you, or if you go to the government and the government gives you certain statistics, or you go to a consulting house and they tell you something, I think that's perfectly up our board.
Maheshwar, let me just come to this. How does government, Paresh mentioned something very interesting about the fact that investors are looking for stability. And what Zubin is mentioning in terms of that, there is a lot of interest in facilitating chambers who are providing facts. Where is the role of the government in this? And I'm talking government beyond politics here. Considering that it's a country that goes through, we had Mr. R. Gopal Krishnan from Tata Sons yesterday with us in the inaugural. And he said we elect 3 million political leaders in this country every year at all levels put together. I mean, we are a highly political country. And if that is the case, what is the role of the administration side of the government to provide? Because business clearly is not about every 5 years. Business clearly is about long-term investment. And if that's the view you'd like investors and entrepreneurs to take for a state like Karnataka, there has been a lot of political instability there itself in the last 2 years. What is the way around that?
The whole, two things I'd also like to talk about a little bit about lobbying in the sense. Finally, how does policy get created? You have to get certain information. A lobbyist, what is his job? It can be, I'm not talking anything about the illegal gratification or something like that. But what is a lobbyist's job? A lobbyist's job is to present its case for policy. You could give information, you provide information, see give the facts of the case and see whether or not government could take certain decisions with respect to a certain policy. Now, in terms of us also, you have got huge number of organizations of industry which actually come and say that this policy of procurement of state is wrong, this policy of preference of state governments for small industry has to be changed, this policy of government with regard to taxation requires to be changed. They come and give us information, we go and fight with the concerned department in finance to see if there are some changes which can be made. Sometimes they also go and make representations directly. Now this is how, on an annual basis, you can keep making minute changes so that you respond to the needs of the industry, because the problems faced by, say, small industry today of high interest rates, difficulties in doing business, etc. requires a certain solution, and the problems faced by, say, certain other industries tomorrow will require a certain other policy response of government. That is the first point. Second point, of course, with regard to continuity of policy, I think there is a clear separation in our political system or our system of governance, that policy change is the prerogative of the political executive, where once they get elected, they come, they make certain changes, there are certain points in their agenda which they announce as stated policies of the government. However, the large part of administration which is there, the permanent bureaucracy which exists, they ensure a certain continuity of the policy. So as a result, you will not, even if you're talking about, say, Karnataka, we have seen over the last 5 years, 3 chief ministers, there has been a huge change in the Council of Ministers over the last 3 years, etc. However, if you look at it in terms of response of industry to the government, there has been not much of change in the executive setup which is actually talking to industry, working with them. And you can see we have conducted two meets where investment promotion events, where a large number of investors have come and expressed confidence in terms of the way they are investing. Close to, I think, in our state itself, in the last 2 events we had, where we had gone and met the investors trying to pull in, including roadshows, to bring investment. It's close to around $100 billion of investment commitments which were made by investors. This is the kind of confidence they expect, because there is a certain continuity of policy which happens given our existing administrative setup. And the political system, of course, keeps making changes as and when there have been changes in government.
So, Zubin, let me ask you this question. You had this headline that came after this passing of the foreign direct investment that happened in both the houses of the parliament. And then you had a very senior leader from the opposition say that if we come back to power, we will roll back FDI. How do you think people, let's say, there are German players like Metro who have been investing in India for quite some time for the cash and carry business. How do you think such investors are looking at these kind of announcements? What's their immediate reaction?
Well, I've been through this situation for the last decade. I first went through it when I was based in Singapore with CAAYE, where there were a lot of issues when the economy was opening up. People were worried about rollback. Right? Then we had some issues when I worked with the French chamber, and the French were very concerned about some issues which were related to the infrastructure sector, where again they said policy will change and it will be to our disadvantage. We are now talking about something like foreign direct investment, let's say in the retail sector, right, where people are, the powers that be, or would be, are making threatening gestures. Right? In my view, in the last 12 years, I don't think there has been any significant rollback in policy, except possibly with this one Vodafone case, right, where things went seriously wrong. But I think somehow I think the people in Parliament feel that they should make a certain amount of noise. Okay, but I think these are idle gestures, because when they come back into power, they themselves will see the advantage of letting this policy perpetuate. So, as far as the Germans are concerned, at the present moment, it's all wait and watch. But I haven't seen anybody packing their bags and going back. I in fact see a lot of people waiting in the wings to come in over here. So I think they also see through the entire system.
You know, Shaffi, you've just joined us, so welcome. We've been discussing about the role of the state centre, policies, what gets rolled back, what doesn't. You're the economic advisor to the Chief Minister of Kerala. It's a state that was under what they call as communist rule for the last 5 years, and you've just come back to power and as Congress. And there was this huge debate about Walmart in the centre, and your Chief Minister, your MPs decided not to sort of support it as such because it wasn't such a favourable thing in the state. And once it got passed in the House, the Chief Minister made a comment that we welcome Walmart. How do you deal with this centre-state balance and priorities? Because there are state-level priorities, there are central-level priorities, and at the same time you have to make sure that the economic growth happens.
Sincere apologies for the delay. An airline which usually is on time 99%, unfortunately the flight was delayed. To answer your question, Bhairavi, at the state government level, it's often a rare situation where policies are reversed. And I specifically bring it in the context of Kerala, where governments have shifted every 5 years for the last 40 years. But a policy which has been put in place, it is almost impossible for a succeeding government to come back and withdraw it totally. Now, with regard to your question on FDI, Kerala government's policy was that we have a fairly developed retail network, and we will allow FDI sometime in future. But at the same time, our stand should not be to hold back FDI in retail for the country as a whole. That is, because of our stand, no other state which wants FDI in retail should be held back. So, as a policy, for the country, we supported it. The Congress MPs from Kerala supported it. Actually, the government also supported it. Government of India wants to bring that policy, that's fine. But with the freedom to us as the state to allow it or not.
You know, Maheshwar, this is an interesting piece, right? It's just, you come from a state which has a different political priority than what is in the centre. And how do you at the state level deal with these different priorities? And what happens in the administration side of it? I think Shaffi is bringing the political side of view here. But what happens in the administration side of it?
The state government's stated policy is, I think in our state at least, that we are not going to have FDI retail license now. So obviously that is an issue which is not going to be presently on the table for any investor. I mean that is the freedom given to the government to decide on what is the call it's going to take. But given a certain call, suppose, but the state government, of course, says that we welcome foreign direct investment in all other sectors. We welcome investment in IT, we welcome investment in manufacturing. So we go ahead, go the full distance, try to bring the interested parties in every sector. I mean, that is the
Right. You know, Shaffi, let me just come to you. Yeah, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to ask you one more question. After that, you could answer. Just hold on. Let me just ask the questions. You can answer everything. Another question that I want to ask is that Kerala government many years ago came up with this beautiful campaign called God's Own Country and created this huge investment and local spurred investment in tourism industry in Kerala. At the same time, it has only now started opening up to investment from outside. Having a huge set of population still living abroad and living outside of the state. So it's a great mix of attracting a lot of investment in the state, but how are you deciding the priorities of where you want to get investments, in which sectors from outside, and where you want to have only domestic spurred investment?
I just want to make one comment. Actually, the stand taken by Government of Kerala in FDI, I believe it's a game changer. Because usually in India, when politicians or political leadership take a stand, they take a stand saying that if I don't want it, it shouldn't be there for anybody else. It's a very conscious decision that Government of Kerala has taken that, you know, I mean, if the country wants it, or any state, even if one state in the country wants it, let it be allowed for that state. We shall not be a roadblock for a development or any advancement or any investment coming into any state who decides it. So that's a major change in how the politics of our country works. Now coming back to your question, Kerala is a great example of tourism and healthcare having grown through homemade success stories. We didn't have the big international brands or the national brands come in and develop tourism for us. For the last 15 years, homegrown brands, both in healthcare and tourism, grew, made Kerala into a preferred destination, a premium destination in India. And now, on their own, the big international chains are coming in, the Marriotts, the Hiltons, the Banyan Tree, the Ritz-Carltons, all of them are coming in. So we believe it actually helped the home industry to establish itself before these big investments came in.
Paresh, you know, you've heard all of them talk about different factors and, you know, how they attract investment and how they're, you know, managing policy changes. But as somebody who constantly looks at what is on the surface and what is below, how do you advise your clients to look at, let's say you heard these 3 destinations here. Apart from the fact of ease of doing business, there's also questions of enforcement of contracts, finding the right labor, you know, there are lots of factors. Labor laws in India are very tricky. So, as in your current role at Ernst & Young, when you advise your clients to invest in different parts of India, at a country level, what are the things that you point out in terms of what are the opportunities, what are the risks, and then how do you break that up into different states, because it's still, like you said, a huge continent.
I think it's a great question which you brought out. I am aware of so many countries where not all companies have to get audited, and some of you may be surprised in India, even if there is a company which has no turnover, no business, it has to be mandatorily audited. I think that's a great comfort which a foreign investor gets at a fundamental level. Second, if you see I have already mentioned about democracy, I have already mentioned about strong judiciary. We heard the 3 states sort of in a way competing, and that's a very healthy competition which is available to investors. I would like to make out one more point. There's too much media attention globally and in India on government influencing business. Let me tell you, you ask yourself, except telecom, infrastructure, metals, virtually government is allowing you to do business on your own. It is only a facilitator. It is not interfering. The whole media focus is only on those particular sectors where government is still in a way controlling. You take services, you take manufacturing, you take healthcare, you take tourism. You can straight away open a hotel. There is no permission from a foreign direct investment perspective required. Even the whole FDI debate, which you just mentioned, there are so many strong conditions to take care of the concerns. The point which was made, lobbying is a misunderstood term in India. It is already happening. It is just that it is said as representations. You have to represent, and it is in the industry of government, business and country, everybody to accept the representations, study the representations so that the law policies can get evolved. So I think when you look at the rules around accounting, you look at the banking sector in India, you look at the strength of capital markets in India, you look at the fundamental things which you need to do business, I think it's all there. And whatever noise you are hearing last 2-3 years in India is all around areas, very few areas which are under government control because of various either environment reasons or things like defense. Otherwise, India allows you to do business on your own almost completely, I would say.
No, Zubin,
I just like to point out one aspect with regard to evaluation of states. In fact, if you look at it, every state government or every federal structure, every regional government, they have their own investment promotion bureaus which are trying to bring investment to their particular states. Like you have got, I think in Pune you must be having some representative office of one of the regions in Germany, which actually tries to promote both cooperation, trade and investment both from Pune to that region or not, or this side. So in China itself, each region, Shanghai or maybe Beijing or this one, they have got their own external, external office, which actually tries to promote trade between their region, finding new markets for the products of their state to other countries and other states. So I think in a way, competition among states for investment and trade and commerce is quite healthy.
Yeah, actually just to add to that point, we had the finance minister of Colombia from Canada, and that's an excellent example how each state sort of makes a representation and pushes their businesses statewide, not nationwide.
Just to add to that, recently the Chief Minister of Jharkhand was in Pune, right? He wanted the Germans to come and invest in Jharkhand. Perfectly fine, right? We put together a set of people who went and listened to him. I don't know at this stage whether anybody is seriously considering investing in Jharkhand, but it's a move, right? And I think we basically encourage it. If somebody came from Germany and said, give me an example of good tourism in India, I would certainly send them to Kerala. I would certainly send them to Rajasthan. Okay? I would tell them, go to Madhya Pradesh and find out what exactly they are doing. Because maybe Maharashtra is not too focused on this particular sector. Okay? But if you need to know where the success stories are, then you need to send people over there. I don't think that you can ever sell a city or a state as an investment destination until you talk about the whole country. Okay? That is very, very important. I would say that, we need to look at some of the models which exist in different parts of the world. We need to look at countries. Maybe if you look at Singapore and you look at India, you're comparing apples and oranges, right? It's not going to work. Though, I think some of the examples which have been put together by the Economic Development Board of Singapore are really, really very fantastic. Okay? But I think we need to find out what has been done, let's say in the United States of America. What is Germany doing? What is France doing to attract? France has some really super investment success stories, right? In fact, they have a coffee table book which I would encourage young entrepreneurs to read, right? Because it's really, really, the way they have attracted people to come and invest in France, right, is quite eye-opener, right? Switzerland has an excellent policy. Okay, in fact, I met the people from the investment board of Switzerland when they came to Singapore, when they came to India, right, and they have a very comprehensive kind of policy to attract people to their country. You will be surprised to know that maybe a lot of you here know that Switzerland is one of the few countries which manufactures large quantities of textile machinery, right? But what you will be surprised to know is that a large part of these companies are owned by Indians. And they have been taken by the Swiss Investment Board from India, from all different parts of India, okay, through this comprehensive policy, where they help entire families to relocate, we look into your social life, we look into the schooling of your children, etc. You need to have a comprehensive national policy, right, into which the state policies are adequately dealt with.
Well, it's a very fair point, but you're looking at comprehensive national policy. Let's look at now some of the, you brought up the point of people going and being taken from to Switzerland, but you've got this whole huge issue about, disfragmented labor policies, and Shaffi, Kerala being an example of a lot of people shy away from investing in Kerala, even domestically sometimes, because they are not too sure about how to really work with the labor situation. Do you think the government has a role in that? How can governments ensure that it's not just from a market perspective that it's one country, but also from a labor perspective, there is certain standardization that companies are able to bring in terms of how they deal with their employees?
So, from a point of view of states having different regulations in different departments, it's actually now turning out to be the competitive edge. Those states which are reform oriented, which are investor friendly, are actually taking the lead on their own and reforming things in various sections, so that the state can actually move ahead in the competitive scenario. So Kerala historically has had the baggage of labor issues. But over the last 10 years, we haven't had one man-day loss in IT, BPO sectors, which has become a selling point. Now, in terms of how a political leadership can make a difference, when the Congress government came to power, we actually made it a criminal offense to try to use
amount of now competitive edge in the differences, but at the same time, as Zubin mentioned, that you just can't be focused on one state. You've got to look at the whole country. Otherwise, India doesn't really deliver. But there's a lot beyond just India as an Indian market. I mean, there is a whole set of multinational corporations who are making India their South Asia, their Southeast Asia, or their Middle East Africa headquarters. So is this doing business in India also not just about India, but it's also now a regional potential?
I think 2 points. First, on India, I think the way to the future and the way to go is to develop small hubs, and I would say not only states, but there will be soon, 5 to 10 years from now, specialized districts, hubs for auto, for chemicals, for pharma, for services. That's the way we will go. Now, taking this point forward and looking at the region, Bhairavi, I think, in fact, it's already happening. A lot of companies I am aware of, including multinational companies, Indian companies, of course, but a lot of multinational companies and companies which have other origin are establishing India as a hub, either from Indian subcontinent or for Southeast Asia, or in some cases, I know, even for Africa. So I think there is a lot of similarity between the condition, circumstance, and including the lifestyles of the people of those countries. Lot of companies have separate teams which are headquartered in India, focusing on Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia. Just look at it, the whole global power is shifted to these countries. So it is not only that the modern or the Western or the already matured world is wanting to go into those countries. Each country in this region is wanting to go into each other's country. Lot of agricultural land has been grabbed up in Africa. Lot of metal mining, shale gas related sort of fields are being captured. And even from a management perspective, India offers a reasonably good bet at becoming a regional hub, at least from a management perspective, including from a manpower and the kind of quality management which is available. I think it's already happening, at least in few segments. I'll name those in consumer, in healthcare, it's already happened.
You know, before we open up to the floor, since we have a man from the Chief Minister's office in Kerala, we have somebody who's here in charge of making Pune the Germany of the East, and we have Maheshwar from Karnataka. I'm going to ask each one of you, we have a plethora of young entrepreneurs here, to give that half a minute, 1 minute spill of why someone should come and invest in Pune, Karnataka or Kerala. So I'll start with you, Maheshwar, and we'll go up to Zubin and then to you, Shaffi.
I think I have been pitching for the last 6 months. It's become second nature, but we always say that I think you should look at the market in India first. If you come to decide about the market, then you decide which part of the market, which segment of the market you're looking at. Looking at consumption, looking at where it's going to be driven, and where you got good labor relations, good quality manpower, and in case that makes your business profitable, you should go there. I think our state, of course, stands somewhere among those which will always be counted, but the choice is yours.
But I think if it comes to high technology industry and you need a place to stand and move the world, then I think it's Pune. Because I think the people in the industrial environment of Pune attracts high technology. I mentioned it earlier, it's a city of entrepreneurs. So if you want to be comfortable in the kind of environment that you thrive in, I would say it's Pune.
Shaffi?
If you want to invest in a land-intensive project or industry, please go to Maharashtra and Karnataka. But if you want to be in the most beautiful state with the best law and order, best governance, and the best social indicators, health, education, etc., please come to Kerala.
I think we're going to open the floor for questions. As you can see, we are a continent, but we're still connected, so we're going to open the floor for questions. We have about 5 to 7 minutes for questions. They're really overwhelmed by your speech, I think. Nobody? I mean, I could keep asking questions, but just want to make Shaffi, you're reminded me, there's one person over there.
Director has already been a drafter entrepreneur policy to Sam Pitroda, but now Sam Pitroda has told that within a 6 month it will, but no reply on entrepreneur policy that will be coming down.
So your question is that the government of India is working on an entrepreneurial policy. There has been a core group that has been set up inside the Planning Commission itself in the 12th five-year plan to include entrepreneur-driven incentives in the 12th five-year plan period. And yes, Mr. Pitroda has sort of also had a role in that. And your question is, what's happened to that? Yeah, Shaffi will answer.
Government of India and other states in India are thinking about it. We have implemented the first student entrepreneurship policy in the country and most probably the world. What we have done is any student while in college who starts an enterprise and create income, wealth or job by a certain parameter, get 20% attendance absolutely free. They don't need to turn up to college for 20% of their college days. They still get 20% attendance and they get 4% marks added to their final grades in this. And we are proud to say that the first campus to IPO company started by 5 students in Trivandrum Engineering College. We just announced from Kerala in 12th December, and it's expected to hit the SME exchange of Bombay Stock Exchange in February.
Right away, if you got 5 ideas, you don't have to go to school. It's as simple as that. But just jokes aside, I think a lot of ideas are happening in entrepreneurship. State government, of course, is not doing much. Is thinking about it. But a lot of organizations, including I think CAAYE, NASCOM, have come up with this plan of doing startups, assisting startups. I think the way to go actually is to have more companies coming up because that generates the maximum jobs.
You know, Shaffi, just for the information's sake, I know Kerala has this fantastic program for the Startup Village. Can you share a little bit about that? We missed your voice on the table when we were talking about earlier about different initiatives.
The Startup Village is actually part of the student entrepreneurship policy. What we have created is we have created a state-of-the-art facility. We started with 25,000 square feet where any college-going student can come in and use the facility absolutely free of cost to start up any technology venture. We are trying to create this, create the Silicon Valley ecosystem, and it's being led by one of the founders of Infosys, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan. So government is providing the infrastructure, but the entire management is left to both outstanding leaders from the industry and a bunch of college entrepreneurs, so that the bureaucracy and the political leadership doesn't come anywhere in the way. Just to give you an example of the interest level, we started this startup village with 25,000 square feet in August, and October 15th the space was completely leased out. We have now putting in place 100,000 square feet by March, and the Chief Minister's commitment is that if it gets leased out, used up by aspiring entrepreneurs, we will set up a 1 million square feet facility.
It's fantastic. I'm going to close on that note. It's been wonderful getting perspectives from each one of you, frank and honest. So that's been great. I'm told that the delegations and student volunteers are to come up here to collect their certificates after the signing is done of the communique this evening. And with that, we bring this session to a close. I thank all the panelists here for their wonderful participation.
Thank you, panelists, as a token of appreciation of your time. We'd like to present a memento. The memento is a book which was released at our national summit 2 years ago by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, titled Change We Want to Be. There we actually edited this particular coffee table book, and I'd like to request Mr. Ankit Mittal from Via Indo chapter to hand over the books to your panelists. Thank you very much.